The mission home is located in a part of London called South Kensington, which is one of the nicest areas of London. I was able to serve in an area called Britannia, which is the singles ward that meets in the Hyde Park Chapel. Hyde Park is kind of like the central park of London, and part of it is close to South Kensington, and so that's where we served most of the day, is in South Kensington, and it was just beautiful. The architecture was phenomenal. The sites were just incredible. It was right next to the chapel's on the same street as the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is probably England's premier art museum. It's right across the street from the Royal Albert Hall, which is one of the most famous performing venues in England, the Royal College of Music, and also across the street from Imperial College, which is one of the top-ranked universities in the world. So it's just a very high-profile street. The street is entirely made of, I think it's granite, just really pretty, really beautiful. Everything there is expensive. I think they bought the mission home 60 years ago for a couple $100,000, and now it's, besides Temple Square, it's the most valuable piece of church property in the world, just because of its location. The mission president lives next door in a block of flats. That's how we say apartments, but in a block of flats, and his apartment is very nice. It was purchased by a mission president years ago. But just a really fun place to be. Just a couple other fun facts about the location. Just down the street is the Lamborghini dealership. So we see Lamborghinis all the time. Ferrari dealerships around the corner as well. Just a really fun place to be. One of my favorite places to get curry is just down the street from the chapel as well. But we would spend a lot of our time around the chapel on that street because it's where Imperial College is. There are so many people and so many tourists, but so many students who are ready to talk. So we would, because we were in the singles ward, we would pretty much just talk to the students, of which there were thousands. And we had a lot of success just talking to the students, especially the Chinese students there. There's a huge group of Chinese students at Imperial College and in London in general. But I remember one girl, she was walking down Exhibition Road, is the name of the street. And it was later in the evening, about 8:30. And we lived really close, so we could literally find on that street until 9 o'clock at night when we had to go home, because there were people outside, which was awesome. And she came up to us, she was walking, and I decided I was going to try a Chinese phrase on her. So I said, 你快乐吗? Which means, are you happy? And she looked up at us and she said, yeah, I am happy. Are you happy? And I was like, yeah, I'm happy. And we started talking to her. This girl was amazing. She moved out from her family when she was 15, and learned in China, learned the gospel from Chinese missionaries that came over from Hong Kong. So she already believed in Jesus Christ, which was awesome. And when we introduced the Book of Mormon to her, she said, oh, I've seen one of these before when I was 10 years old in China. And we were like, how did you see a Book of Mormon in the middle of China when you were 10? But she remembered it, and she progressed really well and was baptized a few weeks later. But that's just kind of what happens in London. There are so many people who are prepared, so many people from different cultures. I think in the singles ward we had people from, I want to say every different country, but just so many different countries. And it was just a really awesome experience. One of the neat things about the Hyde Park Chapel, where the mission home is that for the past 2 years, or about 2 years ago, they started a visitor center there. So right in the center of London, in your chapel, there's a visitor center that you can just bring people to. And we would just flock the people into the visitor center, stop them on the street, say, hey, there's this really cool exhibit. And it's the street of exhibits. So many of the tourists are already going to the museums anyway. It's just another museum. So we get them inside, and they have their first experience with the church. We had another young man, one of my dear friends, who just came to the visitor center. He knew there was a visitor center in London, and so he decided to come see it. And he got baptized about 6 weeks later. It was a really awesome experience to have a visitor center in your mission, and especially in such a great location. The London mission covers the north half of London, so there's the River Thames, and everything on the other side is the the London South Mission. But if you think about all of the famous sites that the missionaries probably have heard of, they're all in the North Mission, which is great for us because we get to see them all. But we would, you get to see the sites a lot, especially if you're driving around. We saw Big Ben, probably 2 times a week. But we would mostly travel to the areas where there were universities. There's an area called Holborn in Russell Square. I don't know if you've seen this TV show called Sherlock, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, but it starts off in this park. And I remember I was watching it with one of my companions, and we're like, "That's Russell Square!" And we just got so excited because it was just a place where we had so many memories of finding people. We would go to this park and just find till our books were full. There were so many students there at the University College of London and at SOAS and just LSE, tons of universities in London, and it was fun to get to know all those students. One of my buddies, we were on an exchange, and we went, and he's an excellent guitar player, and so we went to Russell Square. We set up our shop, I guess, and he played the guitar and I sang, and we just got to know people. The first time we went, it was really successful. The second time it was raining. It happens a lot in England, and so it wasn't so successful. We just looked like miserable missionaries as we were getting rained on and our books were getting soaked. But it was so much fun to just go and share the gospel and with so many people, and you never run out of people to talk to and to just sit down and have a lesson with. So that was a little taste of London. I also served in East London, which was very different. A lot less money and a lot more people from different cultures. And what I mean by that is there's definitely the diversity in Central London. But what I guess is there's less white people in East London, which was fun to get to know people from Africa, India, the Middle East. I've never met so many people from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in my life, but it was very cool to be immersed a little bit in that culture and to see everything written in a different language. It felt like I was on my mission in the Middle East sometimes, or in Africa, but we were right there in the middle of London. So that's just a little taste of what London's like.